Meeting of the Newmarket Building Committee. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda here in front of us. First thing is to look at and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Those are attached.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, additions, subtractions? If none, all approved, say aye.
Aye.
Next is this project updates. Greg, is that you?
I would assume so.
All right.
So as you can probably see, we've had a ton of concrete work since we've last met. The actual gymnasium at the elementary school is actually looking like a building. Steel work is all being put up now. We're going to be looking at some steel work going in at the high school next month and into the following month, so you'll start to see that. They just finished all of the geopiles, and I don't know if you remember the geopile issue where we had unsuitable materials below. There's, I think, 124 of those. Those are all been installed and have been tested, and so that portion's done. They're starting to put the footings and foundations on the west side additions, which you can obviously see by driving by. So a lot of that's happening. We're actually going to be looking potentially next week at seeing the slab go in for the east side of the building, where you'll have the weight room and those areas. So that's all happening. Underground roughing is being done for that. So quite a bit of changes at the elementary school. Again, one of the slabs is already poured. I got to say, I'm pretty impressed with the masonry company that did all the block work. I've never seen a company go quite as fast as that particular company. They got not only the gym done, they've put all the block work in for the east side addition. You notice that, but they're really moving. So that's a pretty impressive thing. Overall, I think by my estimation, we're actually slightly ahead of schedule in several areas, which is a nice thing to see. Still hopefully being on target to look like doing some building turnover in the middle of the winter for certain areas, like the gymnasium at the elementary school. So as our CM Ekman construction gets those done, we'll hopefully be able to turn those over at a pretty good rate. So I think things are going quite well, and we're dealing with whatever issues that may come up in a pretty good fashion. We have a committee that meets every Tuesday to review these projects, and so we're hitting those regularly to help make sure anything that we need to deal with is dealt with quickly. So.
Okay. Next up, any questions on that?
Well, I'd like to hear from the administration, just see what you two have to say about what's happening in your buildings, anything that you'd like done differently, or are you content with the noise level, anything?
I'm just impressed how fast things have been moving on. I mean, at times it can be a little noisy, but we've gone out and talked to Julianne, and they've been pretty proactive about solving that issue for us. And we know that's part of the project as well, and it's going to be a headache that sometimes you have to put up with to get there. Security doors are in. We're still getting used to those. So there's been some glitches that when we started out, but they seem to be smoothed out at least in my building so far. Chris?
I can't say enough about working with Ekman and what a pleasure that's been. Besides the weekly communication that I have with Danny on our site, he's pretty responsive, even if it's not a planned meeting. I would agree with Sean. Yeah, there's been some sights and sounds and smells sort of associated with a project, which they happen. Our kids have been really good, and our faculty's been really flexible. There's been times when it's maybe a little louder than we anticipated, but there's only been a few times where we've changed locations of rooms, and some of that is trying to get some of the work done faster. And so it's not, none of them have been surprises. Sometimes the level of noise is a surprise, but what sounds like a rat-tat-tat on the outside sounds a little bit louder if you're in a library, but it's, again, of particular, I think, highlight. Last week, Dan, the construction manager on our site, myself, and one of our science teachers sat down for about 80 minutes and mapped out a way to include and incorporate some of what we're learning in our science curriculum and in our math curriculum right onto the job site. So it's been pretty interesting. They're working on ways to calculate area, mass, surface. He'll have kids out there actually looking at how to calculate area of concrete and square footage. There's and you guys will know the term, but there's is it a clump test basically?
Slump.
Where you slump test where we're going to set up 5 groups for our 9th grade science classes, and they actually get to evaluate the material and the slumping of concrete. So it really sort of fits in with what we're trying to do academically, and in my mind, there's really no better way to make learning real and authentic for kids than, if they're going to look out the window anyway, we should apply it to our science standards and our math standards. And I can't say enough about Ekman and what a delight it's been to work and how great the communication's been. So
Kids know they'll have to live with their recommendations.
Well, yeah, and they're freshmen, so they're really invested because they're going to be there at the end. So it's been good, and we communicate pretty regularly, and there'll be surprises from time to time, and I think just being flexible has been really important. But the communication from Ekman has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, so the monthly report is attached to the meeting agenda, and was sent out earlier by email. Folks have looked at that. Any questions? No. And also in the very back, at the last meeting, we talked about sort of keeping a running list. I think, Russ, you mentioned it, about change orders so we can readily see the change estimates, if you will, what the total is. So you see that on the back.
In the update, something about additional fill may be required, but it's important to let you know what the fuel alternative methods to deal with the volume of materials found. This was on fill or something like that.
You talking
potential issues, the first.
Yep.
yeah.
I can give you an update on what that's really about.
Yeah, that always gets me nervous.
Well, I wouldn't be nervous about it. Actually, it's a good thing. So one of the things that we had a pretty good idea of, we had a fair amount of unsuitable materials to build off of. Our test board showed that, and as we go through this project, we find more. So one of the thoughts is, instead of having to dig it all out, fill it all back in, they're looking at other methods that we can with fabrics and different items like that to help lessen the impact of those unsuitable removals. That's what's referred to in that particular item, so that we're not looking at the same level of change order for unsuitables, but something that's more user-friendly and still meets all of the requirements. Cost us less.
Meaning we can reduce taking out all the old materials if we secure them properly.
Correct. Yep. So that's basically that's referring to. So.
But nothing on the environmental hazard.
No.
Thank you.
Anything else on the monthly report? Okay, Greg, can you give us an update on the elementary sewer line?
Sure. So we had I guess it's the third cammering of the sewer line. The line at the elementary school is not, and I'm going to try to phrase this properly, it's not disastrous. We do have some areas that have some dips. The engineers are looking at it right now from Allied Engineering. It appears right now, instead of replacing the entire line, which we were very concerned about, just the sheer cost of it and scope impact and project creep, that we may be able to just replace those couple of sections that were heavy dips. Allied's still working on what that scope looks like, as well as Ekman, to get us a cost analysis of just replacing those small areas. But instead of 200 linear feet of piping, we're looking at more something like 30 to 40 feet, which is total in two different spaces, which is a lot easier to deal with than ripping out a couple hundred linear feet right down the center of the hallway of the elementary school. So that's in progress to get more of that information and have a cost analysis of what it will impact us. Allied also did recommend a different method of drain cleaning to kind of clean out some of the items that we found in the video. We found a spoon, a large bolt, an old clean-out cover, all stuck into the drain. And so what's being proposed is another method that would actually clear those items right out of the line. They don't seem to be impacting or backing up areas, but they are there, which could cause the potential. So we want to get those out of the line, as well as fix those two dip areas that are in question.
So we're waiting on a scope of work and a price for it.
We are.
In all events, it's not gonna happen this year. It might happen next year. It's more, I guess, doable in terms of size of project over the summer versus what we were potentially looking at.
Yeah,
And cost.
Yeah, a considerably different cost structure. Like I said, the hard part for us with replacing the whole line meant actually looking at bringing the line out the center main entrance. All of the quarry tile that is in that area would be broken up. It's very, very expensive proposition, and this particular look and the information we have, it won't be as impacted financially as well as impacted to the construction of the school.
Do you think we'll have that by next meeting, Greg, or thereafter?
In speaking with Brian Baruti from Ekman, he is working on it now with Allied, so I'm hoping I would. And maybe John can answer that better.
Keep in mind, this meeting got pushed.
I know this meeting is backed up, so our
So
next meeting is
the
closed.
next one's gonna come pretty quick. There's been a lot of back and forth. I don't know that we'll have it ready for the next one. We'd rather make sure we know what we're dealing with. If we have to go in and camera again or clean again, I'd rather be doing that than try to rush something together, because we can't do the work now. You talk about it being loud.
Right.
We wouldn't be doing it now, so we prefer to make sure we take our time and do our more due diligence rather than rush that back over.
Because that way we'll know for sure. If we have to, we want to know, does it all need to be replaced? Or if we can just do the little parts,
We're
the
pretty
30.
sure.
Yeah, the line does not need to be
We are
replaced.
limited. The question is whether we can continue to limit that area even
Okay.
more by maybe some more cleaning, some other things. We've got, the grease that used to go into that pipe, we've cleaned it, but it's like anything else. You clean it once, leave it, you go back to it, sometimes you can clean it a little more. And so we're working through some alternative.
The video did show that there's a lot of very good sections of the line, so that was a real plus from what we originally started with in the room. It was good to watch the video, although watching drain videos is probably not that exciting to anybody.
They were clean this time.
Do we know what created the dips? Was it sand or?
It could be insufficient fill underneath the line. It could have been installation practices. Who knows?
If I remember correctly from the last meeting, one of the positives though is once both kitchens are finished, grease traps didn't exist in 1986, and they do now, right? So that should mitigate some.
We have a separate grease line for both schools that go out to an exterior grease trap.
Okay.
We did have grease traps that are in the school prior to that. but very different in how they're done today and very much different in size.
And it was internal, so anything that overflowed from that ended up in your lines, which is part of what we were cleaning. And now, the elementary school, it goes out the back of the kitchen, and it goes around, so that line won't see the kind of flow and contaminants, or whatever you wanna call it, greasy water that we've seen before.
Okay. So the next item is the review of the alternates list, and they can afford that.
My breakdown sheets.
Oh, your memo? So Greg shared with you a memo on the courtyard options. The original design, which was an ad alternate for us, is $149,900. It's shown there, and I also provided you with the smaller version of that drawing as a reference. Greg was asked to look at some other possibilities for that courtyard that might be of lesser cost. I think if you're to ask us for our opinion, our recommendation would be that you do the full courtyard. It's going to be pricier to take that on later, and it would, not doing that full design is gonna limit the use of that space. I think it's, as designed, an attractive space that would see a lot of student and community use. And that $150,000, right now, your only option is contingency, but I think, again, there'll be some opportunities for the board to consider later around whether or not they want to ask voters to approve use of interest payments, as well as potentially asking the town to return the impact fees to help recoup some of the bond costs for work on the school projects. So our recommendation would be that you consider the full project, but we've also brought for you, and Jeremiah is happy to answer anything or Ingrid questions about the courtyard. Did you want to go over?
No, but I can, just for
understanding?
context, I can just go
Sure.
over what we have.
Jeremiah,
proposed.
I'm sorry, can I just lay a context for some of those here who might not understand why we're sort of considering this now? I can't recall if we mentioned it at the last meeting, but as the construction's ongoing right now, so if the courtyard gets closed in, and maybe John, you can speak to this too, it becomes, you have to go through things or over things then at that point to finish off the courtyard. And so the thinking is to consider this ad alternate at this point amongst all the other ones, primarily for that reason. There's nothing really changing in your design here. It's more, timing of construction, and if we can save some money by doing it now versus waiting until doing it after and having to hire cranes or other workarounds. So, and Greg, I don't know if you have any rough ideas in terms of the additional cost or.
So I did take a quick look at that today, and as what it could impact, and it's kind of a bit of a moving target, but when you start talking large poured concrete areas that are internal to a building, you're talking a pump truck that's got to pump up and over and down in to get there because we have no route to get in. So you're talking thousands of dollars of equipment just rolling in to be able to do that. Whereas we don't have that same impact because the building's wide open at this point. So I've looked at that kind of thing. Think about hauling all of in this particular rendition, all the patio blocks or pavers through the school, or do you crane them over the top of the school? If you put them through the school, are you worried about impact of the school and the floors? So those all get put in there. We got trees in there. Do you crane the trees over, or do you try to take them through the school? And so those are all different kinds of things. And really, if you look at it, we're at that point where if we do a lot of this now, we won't have those impacts to a done facility. And so-
It won't be an eyesore. Like if we wait and say it doesn't get put in, then you're just looking at a blank space.
So the rub is, and why we're considering it now, is that money was not allocated in the original budget for this design. So we would have to use the contingency fee, lawyer speaking, I'm sorry, have the contingency fund right now, and, you know, it's about 10% of it is what we're talking about, roughly, maybe a little slightly more, so, and we're early on relatively in the project, so you take a little risk by committing to that at this point. And the other rub is that you save a little money, we hope, by doing it now versus going over roofs and whatnot, so.
And I guess the question I would have, and I wouldn't lay it on your shoulders, Greg, but if it was an additional 10%, or whatever the percent is, to do it at a later time, I think that's the only way we could really make a good decision, if it was 50% or, so I at least in terms of making a decision on it, it would be real hard for me to make a decision without having some sense of the upcharge.
I can appreciate that, and I'd have to sit down with Brian and John and
Yeah.
kind of calculate out what that number would look like if we're trying to do it after the fact. We do own, as part of this project, they have to basically do a grading and grassing. But something to note, from one side to the other is a 4-foot difference. So you're talking a pretty good slope that's gonna be there, that their only requirement now is just grassing it. It would be the walkways wouldn't look like that, they'd look like the original bid, which are just baseline asphalt walkways. I don't wanna say it's not aesthetically pleasing, Elizabeth, in your thing, but it's certainly not a great functional space at that point either. But in Al's thing, yes, we'd have to kind of sit down and really look at it. We have a $149,900 estimate from Ekman. We'd have to take a look at, what kind of, pumping costs, craning costs, moving costs, what are all those kind of things, and then come up with, what's that number look like?
When does the door close for us in terms of closing that in?
Last month?
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave us a date for the
Is this moot now, or?
courtyard was September 1st.
No, they've essentially kind of been waiting for this meeting for the committee to make a decision.
We'll do whatever you guys want us to do. The reason why there was a September 1st date is that all the work we're trying to do this fall, throwing more in that mix, makes it harder to get things done this fall that we need to get done in order to get the building together. If this is high on your list, we will figure it out. We can also spend a little time and try to, because I think Brian was already working on trying to figure out what we're looking at if we don't do it. Mike, to your point, are you able to, willing to spend that money now, where there's still so much to figure out? That might be more of a risk than the cost of waiting a little bit with this and understanding better what's going on. At the high school, we've only just begun. It looks like a lot's happened, but
That would be my concern, is committing $150,000 out of contingency when we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
and I don't want to say having a grass courtyard, it obviously isn't what you really want, but what would be better to have something else major that you can't do? And that's a hard decision. Let's say it is 20 or 25. My voice isn't loud enough?
For the TV audience.
Okay. We can do whatever you need us to do, as I've said, but if we have to do this all with the crane, and there is, I'm not sure, say it's 20%, it's $30,000, it's some amount of money, is that worth the risk? And again, we picked for September 1st date was because of what's trying to get together this fall, what we're trying to get over there so we can get some pavement down, so we can control this site for the winter, is why those dates were put in place.
My opinion would be that we're too early on to, too many things to discover, as you've said. So what we'd incur for costs later on is crane cost, pump cost. The space isn't that huge.
Yeah.
That 30% number might be a pretty accurate number in terms of what the extra expense would be. And I for one would wait.
I would too, and the other thing that troubles me is we would be making this decision without consideration of the rest of the ad alternatives. There might be something else on this list, event lighting space that we would prefer to spend the money on rather than this. So I'm,
Well, once you've spent it, you've spent it.
right,
It's not like you're gonna take it back out.
right.
Yeah, and the overall timeline on the project, and, you know, if we run into other issues and all of a sudden we're scratching, looking for money to take care of those issues, and time is ticking, I mean, this is a pretty calculated timeline on the whole job. And we're talking about dates of kids coming and going to school during the school year and not, so I'd be cautious, that's all.
For me, I just want it to be pretty, but obviously, I don't want to take away from the actual building project to make something look pretty, you know, so.
Well, the benefit of making something pretty is you can do it later.
Yeah.
Even if it costs you more, you can do it. But let's just say we go to attach to a piece of your building, there's a problem that we cannot move unless we fix, but you've already spent that money on something to make it pretty.
You know,
And that-
our whole process has been, in my view, has been a cautious process, and we've not gone out and spent money on glamorous things.
Yeah.
We've spent money on real basic things that give us good value all of the time, and I think this is in keeping. It's the same idea here. You know, I'd love to have that space, and I think I spoke about that space early on, and I'd like to see that space as nice as we can make it, but not at the expense for possibly creating some angst in the meantime during the process. So that's where I am.
It makes a lot of sense to me as well, but I just would thank Greg too for bringing it to our attention so we could at least consider the issue and.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not advocating for any of it, just any one option, just that we
Yeah.
do need to make some decision. Either
Yeah.
we're gonna go forward, we're gonna do an option, or we're not gonna do anything.
And if there happens to be some citizen that's listening to this that would like to have a courtyard named in their honor for a mere $150,000.
Speak right up.
Are you
Are you offering?
Al Zink Courtyard sounds good.
Al Zink
The
Courtyard?
Al Zink Courtyard.
The Al Zink
Yeah.
Courtyard.
Would look good, Al.
Yeah, I know. There's one problem.
Any other comments on that? If not, unless I'm gathering the consensus is to table that out of prudence.
And can the impact fee, can we still ask about the impact fees and see if they will be available after the project, and then maybe we can do something like that?
So we know from our last school board meeting, the drawdown date is June of 2021, and the board would need to budget for that revenue in the upcoming fiscal year. If you don't budget for the revenue, you can't use it.
All right.
So can I just review the other ad alternates that are due now? If you start on, you can look at either sheet, but if you look at the two-sided sheet that has high school on one side and elementary on the other, the steel post and beam guardrail, we discussed at a previous meeting and decided against, so that is already closed. We just discussed the courtyard. The 10-foot water line was a town consideration, that has already closed. That was a June deadline for us. The MCT we talked about at the last meeting, that was a September 1st deadline. We decided against that. So the skylights at the event corridor is a now deadline. And the solar tubes is a decision we would need to make at the next meeting. Insulation of exterior walls, I mean, we talked about that again. You have the rating sheet provided to you also in the packet. That's a January. Impact resistant glass is already covered in the infrastructure fund. We talked about the forbo at the cafetorium, so that's already closed. Metal wall panels will be upcoming. That's not a decision we need to make yet. Skylights at the cafetorium is also a decision we need to make today. Wall tile at the lobby was a deduct. We did not choose to accept that. Cafetorium, air conditioning is closed, and you see hand dryers, locker room light fixtures, which was removed from consideration because it's an EEI project.
Which, I'm sorry, hand dryers removed?
Hand dryers is to be determined, that's a later in the process.
Okay.
The
Oh, the light fixtures.
fixtures for the locker room are EEI, value engineering, energy performance contracting consideration for later. So you have two high school items that we need to determine today. And then on the reverse side of that is the elementary list. You saw the sidewalk, we've already addressed that. Bleachers at the elementary school, that is a now decision. Pectum ceiling panels are a March decision. Forbo MCT, again, same conversation we had at the last meeting, so that one's already been closed. Air conditioning at the library is a now decision at the elementary school, and hand dryers at the elementary school are a now decision. So we can walk through costs on those, and if you look at that reading sheet, I think they're all in there.
So am I correct that in the alternative schedule for the elementary, there were 3 now?
Yes.
And for the high school, there were 2 now?
That is correct. Skylight at the event entry corridor is a $34,000 600 cost. That was a medium priority from this committee when we previously looked at it. Skylights at the cafetorium. Skylights and shades were a high priority. And Greg, I'm not looking at that cost on my sheet. It's omitted. Do you have that one?
It is not on my sheets for that, because I think that was already pulled. Double check.
It was already one.
I think it was already rejected prior by the committee.
The solar tubes?
The
Skylights and shades.
So while Greg's looking for that, I can give you the prices on the elementary items. The bleachers are a $28,600 cost. The air conditioning at the elementary library, sorry, I just had that in front of me, is a $15,700 cost. And the Dyson hand dryers at the elementary are a $3,600 cost.
Can you help me visualize the skylight event?
Yeah.
that-
So basically, I'm asking Jeremiah to go get the high school plans.
Oh, okay.
But, if we had to choose between the skylights, I would definitely say the cafetorium is the space to have that because of the limited natural light. The skylight that we had at the event corridor, we have the courtyard that has glass that comes into that courtyard. So it's a nice to have, it would be beautiful, and it would light up that entryway a lot more, because if you remember, there's a overhang and a roof covering, so it's not a dark entry, it will be lit, but it would help augment it during the day so it wouldn't appear as dark.
Is that the corridor coming from the front door?
No, the corridor that comes from the parking on the side.
Parking on the side?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So if I had to prioritize, and we're gonna look at the relative size of the one that we planned for the cafetorium to see if we can kind of ballpark that price, since we don't have it right here. But I think the cafetorium one was a bit bigger. You know, it's probably under 100,000, but it's more than 50.
That was the committee's higher priority as well. That was a 4.7 and your other one was a 3.
Cafeteria.
So basically, on the plan, the event entry corridor had 3 long ridge skylights. They're probably 4 feet wide by 10 to 12 feet long, 3 of them, for $34,000. So in the cafetorium, we have 6 of those, so it's roughly the same size, and it would be even distribution of light, so it would feel like daylight. It would make a remarkable difference in that room.
So 60-ish?
68-ish, 70-ish, ish.
Ish.
I don't know if that cost included the it's probably more because the structure of the existing roof in the cafetorium would need to be beefed up.
And the roof itself,
Yeah.
is that one of the roofs?
It's a hot roof.
So that all plays into it too.
And I don't have a costing on, it was HSA 8, I believe.
A2, yeah.
Yeah, is what I
Alternate two.
have, and I do not have a cost on that item, so I can't.
So I guess my question would be, that's listed as an October 8th. This committee meets again on the 15th. If Ekman has that information by the 15th. If we can work up a price.
Which one are we on?
This is the cafetorium, yeah. If we could get a price by the 15th, could that wait the extra week for the final decision?
And at the same time, you have to look into your roofing. That's the
Yeah,
hazardous
okay.
on your side.
We'll do that. So that we can have it. Okay.
Put it on my notes.
So can we wait on the event corridor skylight too, a decision on that? Because is it kind of,
That's structural steel. The challenge with that one is, it's the, the shop drawings have all gone through.
So the shop drawings have been approved for infill in those areas.
But it's just infill, it doesn't
Right.
change the steel.
I believe so. I think there's still openings with infill steel.
If that's the case, then
Instead of,
where the week is no problem. If it changes the steel, that would be a different discussion.
so
I'd have to look at the shop drawings.
was all that
The steel has been designed for the holes for the skylight.
I see.
So when they reviewed the shop drawings, we basically told them to infill it, thinking that you would roof them over and not take the alternate, but we cannot have them install that.
or we can wait until October 15th to determine that.
Yeah, if the steel is the way you're saying it is, which makes sense, it's a little less critical than if the steel would just say, there's a beam going right where your skylight's at, you would have to actually change the drawings, different problem.
So that leaves us with the elementary items, the bleachers. I think that our consensus on that is that it can wait. There would be some additional cost, but we don't think substantial to install those at a later time.
Actually, I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think there would be an additional cost for that, because
Only
they're brought
if
in
the
in
bleachers
pieces.
themselves go up, if you order them
Yeah.
2 years from now, they might cost more,
Right.
but
But
it doesn't
installation is
change your
unchanged.
space.
Right.
Nope.
Um,
Or how they're installed, because they're brought in pieces to begin with.
That's, none of that part's a problem.
Yeah.
You may choose to do that a year after we're done. And again, it's a cost, bleachers may cost a little more, but there's double doors, there's ways in there, which shouldn't be an issue.
So just to refresh the rating scale here, was 5 more critical and 1 less?
That's correct.
How do we get Dyson hand dryers more critical than AC in the library?
Well, there's a cost differential, I guess, too.
All right.
But again, the air conditioning at the library is $15,700 cost, and the hand dryers is $3,600.
Has anybody looked at the public health issue of hand dryers? Typically, people don't dry their hands, and if you walk away with wet hands, you still have more germs. So you still have the germs there, and you're spreading them, and it is like an epidemic problem. You know, if you've got something going through the school, it's a public health issue.
You had mentioned that last time.
I did.
At one of the other meetings, you mentioned
Yep.
that. Well, for what it's
Maybe tell us
worth,
what
we
you
have them
saw.
as low priorities, I say don't do them. For the same reason, the courtyard, it's less money, but who knows what issues we're gonna have, and if we're gonna run out of money.
On both
On-
the AC and the dryers?
Yeah.
So the AC.
And the bleachers.
What, the AC at the elementary, is that why is that a priority now? Does that need to be tied into something? Or
Your
why?
equipment, you got roof work and all that has to be
coordinated. So is that gonna cost more to do later?
I believe that
That's
piece
the
of
no-
equipment would be brought in now. It doesn't have the
That's right.
AC, so you'd
That
have
was the
to
point,
take the
is
brand new piece of equipment
all the
out and put
equipment got
another new piece of
ordered.
equipment in.
That doesn't make sense. If it's,
It doesn't have cooling in it, so you'd have to get a new piece of equipment that does have cooling in it.
and it's a $15,000 upcharge to get the piece of cooling equipment in it?
When it got ordered originally.
So you're saying that was already closed, John? 'Cause that's not what I had understood, so that could be.
I thought the AC, well,
Yes, it said 9/3, but I thought, I understood
I can check
from-
if they
Okay.
held it, I can check that, but that was the reason for the dates, was because we were trying to release the
Which-
equipment, but I'd be happy to check.
That's something we can come back next time.
No,
No.
no, it's one of those things, if you decide, if it's available, let us know, and I'll chase it.
So basically,
back.
you need an answer right now, in that if it can be changed, you'll change it, if it can't, it can't.
That's, if Brian and Alex held the submittal, which is possible, we can make the adjustment. If the piece of equipment's been released, not so much.
Gotcha.
I think we had originally
if-
held it for last
if-
week's meeting,
If
but
Brian,
I don't know
if they
if it's
held
still
it,
held.
and I don't know off the top of my head, but if they held it, then,
it's fair.
yeah, we can still do it.
And it's am I correct in saying it's a $15,000 upcharge to add AC to the heating unit?
Somewhat.
15/7.
15/7.
Yeah, that's what they've quoted, Al, for that particular item to us prior.
I think you can never have enough AC.
I mean,
But what's the consensus? We need to make a decision.
You know, look, I don't know if I misheard that. Is that something we can't do later?
You can, it's gonna cost you a lot more than $15,000.
What does that mean?
When we
Because you got a piece of equipment that is purchased that doesn't have the air conditioning compartments and equipment as part of it. So you're gonna basically take that piece of equipment off and get rid of it, and then buy a completely new piece of equipment. This is to take and order the piece of equipment right up front, so you'd end up paying for the piece of equipment twice.
It's twice the cost.
Alternatively, I think what Hank had explained to us was if we didn't do it this way, we'd be buying ductless,
You'd be doing something different.
Yep.
More so
as
than
opposed
changing
to
the
replacing
equipment.
that large piece, we'd just be buying ductless units to go in that space after the fact.
Yeah.
I'd say at this level, for my money, my thought would be to go forward with it. There were folks in there this summer, who were using it, and it wasn't really comfortable. I was in there a couple times, and you know, you got books in there, you got kids in there, and I think for this degree of money versus spending twice to do it down the road, doesn't make much sense to me. I would do it.
I would do it.
I would do it, and the ductless are not proving to be as substantial as building it right in. I would support it.
Sounds like that's a consensus. to
Yeah,
do it.
I'd spend the 15.
Yeah.
So if you can chase that and stop it.
Yep. No problem.
And if you can't,
Greg will get an update, if I can get the information tomorrow, we'll get an update.
yeah.
Great. Is that it for now on? We'll come back
Yes,
to the other
two
ones
for
later.
And I just wanna make sure I go over what the courtyard you've asked for us to, look into later. Skylight, high school cafetorium, and the event hallway.
Correct.
But if we can get a deal, we can do both.
The
Doing
event
more than one
hallway-
skylight, yeah.
The event hallway is one you want, you just wanted me to verify that we're all set, or?
We were just verifying that that decision could wait until October 15th, so there's nothing else to do. And you said yes, based on the report from Ingrid and Jeremiah regarding the steel.
Yeah.
I will confirm that, but it's
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
Okay. The cafetorium is a numbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's more important than the event hallway.
In my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, in our opinion, I mean, that was a 4.7 versus a 3.
And just so as we're going through the list here, so we can get some clarity and some answers on there, I think we didn't really discuss it, but the bleachers, to me, if they can be put in later, given that we're early on in the project, that I would defer that. That makes sense to folks?
Yeah. Agreed.
The bleachers, you could wait till the high school is done and order them.
Those are the elementary school bleachers.
Sure.
So we are putting brand-new bleachers in the high school, so
And
that's in progress now.
Ingrid makes a fair point. I think maybe we can get some more information on that, about the hand dryers. I would think if they're in the market, there's probably been some study or comment on those things. And
Especially with the littles too. They're better off
they
with
work
paper towels.
well for adults, but not for kids. But again,
Your
it's
school nurses might really know, might have information on that, because they're looking at stuff for that age level.
But it's the relatively small price, but, I would gather, John, it was something you guys need to think about wiring right now.
Well, that's the problem, especially in the elementary school, it's all masonry block walls.
Yeah.
Once those are grouted, anything we do ends up being surface wire to
Right.
it, because you're not getting anything through that wall.
Yeah. And so could that decision wait till the next meeting, once we have some of that info?
By the next meeting, all your masonry walls will be done,
So
All right.
if they're not done now.
Okay. So we'd have to know now on that.
Do we know how
Well,
much
it
we
could
spend
be-
on paper towels?
It can be surface.
Dig it out, I don't
Because
have
I don't
it off
remember,
the top
some
of
of
my head.
these, if they're in the
We
existing
spend
code
about
rooms, which means they be
80,000
surface
in
anyway.
custodial supplies.
Or if they're all just in the new.
You're not even working on those, so.
Great. Is this for all the bathrooms? Or
It-
just the new ones going in? All the bathrooms?
Was it the little ones too, or just?
No, it wasn't
just
the,
big
it's just the gang
Gang
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yep,
Shared.
common area type bathroom, sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking at them today, I think all the bearing walls are built, but some of the interior ones aren't, so it's a possibility they haven't been built yet.
John, is there a way to wire them, leave wall plates, make sure that it's there while you're doing the block wall construction? You leave yourself options later and you don't have to decide at the moment.
There's always possibilities, yes. The conduit could be put in the wall.
If I was doing my own
If the
bathroom,
wall's
that's how I
not
would
built.
plan it.
They can be done in all events down the road, just with exterior wiring. I think we punt that one now, and wait till the next meeting, we get that info about, is it the best use, for cleaning.
That's fine.
I guess others have a different view. All right,
You're okay with that? All right.
I think that's the list. Anything else on the agenda?
Yes, the elementary school finishes.
Finishing.
It's up there, it's quite hard for people to see. It's just-
I gave mine.
Color's the fun part. So yeah, we printed out some pictures of the existing school just to give you some context and what we have now and how it relates to what we're proposing. And as you can see there, these couple pictures here are in the hallway, and you have this primary color theme in green for the various door and frame colors. They kind of alternate as you go down the hall, and they mix up. I think it's fun, for an elementary school to liven it up a little in that respect. So I do like that and wanted to continue that theme into the addition. So as you can see there, you have a vinyl composite tile, which we're proposing as well, sort of like a beige color, a dark resilient base, light-colored walls. You do have some carpet mixed in here and there. We're proposing primarily just VCT everywhere except for the administration areas. These plans show, these are floor patterns, these two, and I'll go through those. Here's the existing gym. You got some different colored acoustic panels in there, some reds, some blues. There's a couple different patterns you have going on the floor as you go down the corridor. There's some different squares here with some blue squares with some
This is the quarry tile in the entry. The bathrooms have like a beige colored tile with some blue toilet partitions. This is one of the rooms showing casework. There's some oak casework with a blue plastic laminate countertops. And so, you know, this is the palette of the existing, or the proposed colors here, the different materials that are included in the design. So these are, you know, color matched just with the Sherwin-Williams paint wheel to the existing frames. So on these floor plans here, the dots, the different colored dots indicate the accent color, which would be painted the hollow metal doors and frames. So that's just, it's not a floor color, it's just indicating what the color of the door frame would be. The rest of it is the pattern of the final composite tile and the color within that. So here we've got the different paint colors. You also had like a rust color, which is sort of like a utility door color, or the color of the door that you didn't want to bring attention to. Most of the Brazilian color I matched to the Brazilian base. I matched to this, which is like a dark brown color. I also put a black on here because in the new gym we've picked like just blacks and reds. So I figured just we would use a black in there if that's okay. This is a sample of the Tectum acoustic panels. They go on the walls of the gym. Here are some different flat composite tile colors, and we tried to coordinate, you know, these different colors with the accent colors, so it kind of would relate to that theme of floor patterns. This is a field color and the accents. This is a solid surface color that we're using on the windowsills. Plastic laminate. We've already chosen this oak to match the existing. There's a couple different options for the counters. You primarily have blue here. There's another option for a green color. Toilet partitions, here's a blue, we just figured to match the existing. This is the gym wall padding. There's a divider curtain that's about, the lower portion of it is vinyl, and then there's a mesh above it. It's not actually shown in this rendering, but we wanted to match the theme of the red and black. This is the red wall padding around the perimeter, and Newmarket colors, you know, in the gym flooring. This is a red black. Ceramic tile. We have ceramic tile in all the bathrooms, and we just have painted CMU in all the walls that have CMU. It's just a tile floor. There are a couple smaller bathrooms that are drywall and metal stud that we have a wet wall of tile. It's shown here. I realize it's too small for you guys to see, but there's a couple different accent colors in that wet wall. Behind the fixtures of some blue and some green. Quarry tile. You have this red flash color in the lobby right now in the kitchen. Seems how with all the flooring is being replaced in the kitchen. We're proposing a different brown color, but you can go to the traditional red flash if that's more your liking. And then there's a carpet in the administration area only, the conference room, and I think this is the guidance room as well. And last, there is a walk-off, like a rougher walk-off carpet, which is a blue color in all the vestibules, the new vestibules. Here and here. And the thought behind the patterns and the flooring is, you know, we have just some accents, some squares representing the different colors. In the gym lobby, we have those 4 colors. And then there's more color when you go over to this side of our new edition. And what we've shown there is a yellow accent, which, you know, kind of would act as a threshold into these rooms. And we have a different color in the VCT with the corresponding door color, you know, as you enter the room as a flag. And then we have a border in that same color in each of the classrooms, and then there's just some different colors, again, some squares of color to reflect the home outdoor accent color, basically.
How wide are the borders in the classrooms?
Well, they vary. You know, they're typically 2 feet along the edges, 2 or 3 feet, and then there's about 8 to 10 feet in spots as you enter. And it's right where you enter. There are cubbies and casework in that zone. And also in the gym, you know, you can kind of see the cow wall windows that we have up high there. And what you can just see here is a band of tectum above the wall pads. In this rendering, we have it just shown painted out with the wall, which is what we carry for a base bid. And we also, in the last couple of days, just looked at, you know, an alternate.
Hey, Jeremiah, will those wall pretty much light the gym on a clear day?
Well, that's the way we designed it. We also had some additional skylights in the roof that were taken out. So that will affect the amount of light, natural light that gets in the space. I think that you most likely would have had to leave some lights on in addition to the cow wall. I think, I'm not sure if it will naturally light the whole gym to a level that you're satisfied with. But
Depends on
yeah,
what you're doing.
yeah, and how much light there is. If it's a real sunny day, you know, it'll give you a lot. I mean, the point of those cow wall lights is they're supposed to really diffuse the light, you know, really well. And so this was an alternate design to add more color into the tectum panels. And we've since learned that, you know, trying to do something like this would add cost. In asking Ekman, they thought it would be like $5,000 or $6,000 to change the design to add more interest in the tectum panels. So basically, it would be changing to 4x4 squares, painted in different colors, the different primary colors. So whether or not that's something that you want us to have priced officially, you know, that's your call. We could drop it here, or we just thought that it would be something that could liven up the space a little bit and add a little more interest. Comments? I have some, we brought some other samples here that we selected from actually different materials. And,
Jeremiah, you're looking for some input from us tonight because you got to make some decisions.
yeah, you know, I mean, the decisions on the finishes are fairly pressing on the elementary school, especially, you know, the tile selections that Acme needs right away, you know, because there's a lead time associated with those. So, yeah, we would like to have it resolved this week.
Jeremiah, is the tile that they used in the music room, is that up on there? Is it the one on the far left? Next to
It's
that
not.
blue?
It's not. That was actually chosen, I think, by the music teacher. It's a lighter color. It's close, but you know, this was a neutral color that was. And I think that's okay. It's a color inside your room. It doesn't need to match it.
But Mike, I'm recusing myself because I'm colorblind.
I think it looks fine.
There are some.
It looks nice.
There are some pamphlets, you know, like for example, this carpet. It's difficult to get a sense of what it would look like in a field, you know, just from a sample. But there's some pictures there, you know, it's showing what it would look like at a quarter turn pattern. If you want to pass that around. The particular sample that we were thinking of is, I think this is what we chose from. And there's also I think a picture right back here. That's the sample that's on the board. What was that?
I was just going to ask, I'm not colorblind, but I'm by no means an interior decorator either. Does it make sense, I know this is an elementary school piece, but does it make sense when we get down the road on our project that we're somewhat aligned from a cost perspective and from a materials perspective, or it doesn't matter to you all?
So the materials are already chosen because that's what they bid on.
Okay.
So the colors for the junior, senior high is gonna be a totally different scenario.
I was just
this is
looking at
hard.
the reds and the grays and just trying to see if that would be
I mean,
worthwhile for us
parts
down
of
the road.
this May,
Yeah.
for the gym,
That's
maybe
next
that will
meeting.
carry over.
If it'll save us money, that's all I was.
No.
There's enough quantity in both places.
So from what you presented here, Jeremiah, I understand the only cost differential is the design in the gymnasium, is that it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're looking for a blessing of the color palette and a decision on whether or not we
Looks
want
good.
the Tectum.
Yeah, we can have a price
Pattern.
if it's of interest to you guys.
The Tectum's color choice
I have no input. I'm
Yeah,
not,
that
look
one,
at this.
yeah.
So,
Not a gift, but
so
this
you need
looks
the
good.
blessing of the rest of the color palette.
leasing of flooring.
I'd be like, Mom,
I
what
guess
do
the
you
only
think?
question I would have is, you know, is somebody considered maintenance? You know, with these things, you know, this rug shows all kinds of junk on it. Maybe that's not a good idea. I'm not saying that one.
No.
But I mean, has somebody looked at it and said, these are good durable colors?
Yeah, well, we're comfortable with them. I mean, we've also, I think chosen like the carpet, you know, they won't show dirt as much as would a solid later color. You know, we had alternates for flooring materials that were less maintenance, and these are going to be the standard maintenance that you're used to, you know, as far as the waxing and buffing of floors that you've been doing. So they're not going to be much different than what you're used to.
Okay.
So,
The school, with its nature of the design, it's more of a continuation of what's there.
Right.
So it would be a little, to do a different design or a
Right.
different palette would feel odd.
Okay.
The two areas that you do have some liberties in are the new gym, where we could kind of do something new, or the new administration with the carpet. We could bring in a new color, which can we were painting those rooms. So you can have new painting, so it would feel fresher and newer. The junior, senior high, we're gonna have a whole new way of thinking, or could.
Yeah,
We
this
should.
is it's a continuation of, like Ingrid said, it is slightly different. I don't want to get the perception that it's going to be exactly the same. We're proposing some different ideas with the border inside the classrooms, but
so,
other than that,
instead of, getting mentioned about $6,000 for the gym, color scheme there, and that would be an ad alternate essentially, that would something.
And a decision that we could make at a subsequent meeting, is what I heard John and Ingrid say.
Yeah, okay.
Can you turn that board around, please?
When I first saw this, you know, this is what we bought. I mean, we could paint this strip a different paint as long as it's the same, because this is the Tectum board, and then this is CMU and that's CMU, and these are the mats. It just became very stripy, so that's why I think Jeremiah just wanted the Tectum to kind of, you know, go away in this option. I thought it would be nice to look at, because it is an elementary school gym that will be used by the community too, to do something with a little more interest and not do the entire stripe, but just maybe something under the windows to just give it some interest, that's all.
yeah, it doesn't continue all the way around the room, just underneath the cowl wall. The band would be just wrapped around the other three sides.
Makes it look less prison-like.
And it kind of reiterates the floor patterns that you have
Yeah.
in the
Right.
rest of the school, but it's on the wall.
And that's small money.
I'd like to see it broken up like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other. I mean, we're talking $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah, it wouldn't change the quantity, it's just more crap and later.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's
Yeah.
changing.
I think they would paint them on the.
I don't think
None
so.
of the side.
before they put them up
It adds a little zip.
there. Yeah.
We can ask John and Brian to give us a hard number of what that would cost, and since it's not a pressing issue on that particular item, we could bring that, if we can put it together for next meeting. I don't know, if you got enough, John, do you have enough time to put that one together, do you think? I know the drainage one's a whole different ballgame, but,
Should be able to have that together.
okay. And we can bring it in and you can make the decision at that point.
That sounds good. Are we otherwise okay with the palette that
Yeah.
Ackman's proposed here?
Yes.
It's very
Yeah,
nice.
I haven't
I think
haven't
it's
shown
good.
any
Yeah.
alternates on this board, it's just really one option, you know, I mean, there's other colors that we could choose from.
Don't confuse them.
But,
No, it's good.
All the all options.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Or nothing.
Are you a
We did
parent
have a
yet?
discussion on it. The one
Have you
thing,
learned about limiting options?
the one discussion that we did have before this meeting was the countertop color, because we had mostly blue in there, but we also put in green. They both have some sort of texture to it, it's just not, it's not just a flat color. So whether or not you wanted to stick with the same color count as you had, or go with something different, you know, or we could, you know, have like just a blue in a section of the building and go green everywhere else, that's option two. Not sure if you have a
Is that a
strong
very
opinion on that.
I think what we heard is, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think blue is what we were.
And we'll mix it up with some green.
Okay.
I wear a lot of
Take
blue,
one
I like
for
blue.
You like blue?
So this is it.
That's it.
That's
It's
all.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was awesome. So if it doesn't look good,
looks
Mike,
good.
it's your
It's actually
problem.
rare.
I was prepared for a long night.
No, it looks nice.
So, our next meeting, Meredith, what's the date on that?
Tuesday, October 16th,
Okay. Same time.
Same station.
5 p.m.
October 16th.
Yep.
So what is that, the
Okay.
15th?
Guess we're adjourned. Thank you.
Now, Mike,
I don't pick up.
can you see color at all? Okay, so at the top line,
my
I
youngest
see
son got-
green,
Hey, John.
yellow, blue, red.
I can see the yellow.
Okay.
Red
I
looks
hope you'll pass along the feeling of the building.
Okay. Interesting.